All right, we are trying something a little different today. So hopefully this is going to work because if it doesn't work, then I've spent all this time trying something that's not working. Okay, so today, welcome to the Facebook Live. We're going to be talking a little bit about self-sabotaging behavior and what self-sabotaging is. So one of the things that I see quite often, and again, we're trying a totally different platform. So if by chance you can't hear me, if you can't hear me, I don't know what to say other than we're trying something totally different right now. So anyway, I'm running it on this and hopefully we're okay. We'll be able to see things, but very, very interesting. So it's very weird this way that I'm doing Facebook Live. But anyway, welcome. So we're going to be talking about self-sabotaging behavior. So those of you who know me know that I have a background in NLP and cognitive neurosciences. And one of the things that I study quite often is I study what makes the brain work, why we hold ourselves back, why some people can succeed, why some people cannot succeed. So there's a lot of different things that we actually do. And one of the things I'm seeing at this time of the year, and I've never seen so much like this, is we're seeing self-sabotaging behaviors. And, you know, it doesn't matter what business we're coaching, whether it's in real estate, whether it's independent contractors, whether it's in industries like, you know, customer service industries, health industries, professional sports, self-sabotage exists everywhere. It's prevalent in almost anywhere that I'm actually coaching right now. I'm seeing it, you know, united everywhere. So if you're wondering what self-sabotaging behavior is it's a cognitive issue right now. Okay, so what happens is you have multiple parts of your brain. Self-sabotaging, I do it and I know what it is. So if I do it and I know what it is, chances that you're doing it pretty damn good. Where I'm seeing it most of the time though, right now is this year. And it's interesting because it can mask itself in different ways. That's one of the things that I'm finding very interesting is that usually, like I was saying earlier to somebody, self-sabotaging is also encouraged by your circles. So be very cautious about that. Okay, so let's keep going with this one. So self-sabotaging behavior is a cognitive strategy. If you're wondering why people do it is because we use it to withdraw our efforts. Like we create our own obstacles. And the reason we do that is to keep potential failure from actually hurting our self-esteem usually, or maintaining a public or private self-image of competency. Okay, so most of the times the reason why you self-sabotage yourself, if you want to kind of get a little less geeky on that, is to protect ourselves. So it's totally innocent that we do it, but it is actually incredibly dangerous to everything. Not only your mental health, but also your business and everything else. And what I'm going to talk about this quite seriously. I know a lot of the times I drop some F-bombs and I have a little bit of fun, but this is cognitive behavior, so I really do want to focus in on the serious note. It's a mental block, or like what it feels like is it feels like a mental block. It feels like something is physically stopping you from doing something and you can't explain it. You don't know why, and lots of times you're not even aware of it. Somebody might say something to you, but what it does is it pulls you away from your goals. You know, it can even be a goal of a happy relationship with somebody, and you're just, you know what, you're pulling away from it. So we see it in business, we see it in sales, we see it in customer service, we see it in relationships, we see it in friendships, we see it in health and wellness. You know, we see it everywhere. Okay, so think of it this way. It's when you want something and you're not getting it because you know you're not doing the work or you're pulling yourself away from it and you cannot explain why. So you say, I want to be here, but I'm here and I don't know why. I have no idea why it's happening. You're not where you want to be, basically. Okay. So why do we wreck our plans? Well, I don't know. No, I'm kidding. Why do we wreck our plans? Well, Carl Jung, who's absolutely brilliant in this field, I love his stuff, love reading his work. He calls it the shadow in our brain. Now, a lot of people refer to the shadow as where your negative impulses live. That's not true, though. Okay. It's more like a closet in your brain. So sometimes I describe it, he describes it as a closet in your brain. Other neuroscience people have described it as a big black bag on top of your head, you know, where you're just accumulating stuff. I don't care what you want to refer to it as. Just think of it as a black little closet. I mean, it can be a dark closet. It doesn't necessarily have to be black. But anyway, we sweep things in there that we don't really want to deal with. Okay, that's what we do. We just take all the shit, whether it's traumatic experiences when you're a child, whether it's something, you know, bad relationships, whether it's something that's digging you, maybe it's a parent that, you know, you didn't even know something was bothering you. But what you do is in that little area, that shadow of your brain, you take stuff and you sweep it in there and we repress the traits as if they're not even part of us. And they are. That's the crazy thing is that these traits are part of who you are. They're what makes you. Okay, if you look at all the trauma I've had in my life, you know what? That closet is like as full as, I don't know, like a shopping mall. Okay, it's like a giant shopping mall of shit that I've just thrown into there. But you have to acknowledge, you know what? The problems will exist. Many of you know I gained, like, we're talking a lot. Like a lot of weight, you know, so it will come out at some point. It will come out. Okay. That's what you always have to remember. So what you really are doing is that you're repressing all the traits. And, you know, Jung often refers to it as, he says, it has disastrous consequences to it. Okay. Huge disastrous consequence. And because you operate your life as if they don't exist, as if what's happening back there doesn't even exist, and it's repressed. So what it does is that your unconscious part of you, it revolts against the conscious part. So that's what's happening. You have like the unconscious and conscious are having a battle. So you may want to go somewhere and you don't even know that this is a repressed trait, that you have a personality that you're bringing into it that's going to fight you every step of the way. And it's going to probably win because you can't explain it, and you're avoiding it, and you've swept it into there for such a long time that it literally is just, you can't explain it. You don't even know that it's there. A lot of the times in coaching, when I tell somebody and I say, you know, you have, you're self-sabotaging yourself, they often say, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. A very, very good example of this recently is a wonderful, wonderful client that I had. And I absolutely thought, like, just a rock star client. And out of clear blue, after only a few months, the client was like, just as we were having a breakthrough and I was pushing, it took 3 months to establish that trust. And then basically was trying to push that client to the next level of what they really wanted with their goals. And the person just lost it. They just lost it. They were like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. And they really, really pushed back, and they wouldn't give a full explanation behind it. But then when I had a conversation with the person, guess what came up? Most incredible thing, the person started talking about the fact that they said, you reminded me of my father. And they're like, you reminded me of all the things, and it just came back, and I had anxiety and all the things that were happening that, you know, the way my father, you know, was so goal-oriented and pushed. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. Do you still want to get to the top? And the person said, yeah, I want to build the best business there is. And I said, then why are you letting this? A, I'm not your father. B, you really want something. And C, do you understand that this is your self-sabotaging behavior? The reason you've never gotten to the top is because every time somebody tries to hold you accountable to get there, you go back to, nope, 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 that's what my father did, and you're repressed. You know, so you're fighting it, right? You want to get somewhere, but then you're going, you know what? This is fighting you back, saying, no, 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 this didn't work out for you as a child, so therefore it won't work out for you now. Anyway, the person really just was like, what? And I said, you didn't even realize that you were referring to me as your dad. You know, that's when you know that the self-sabotaging is at your highest level. Okay. So very interesting. Yeah. I'll go through a couple examples in a couple of seconds here with you. So, you know, you may be, you know, another good example is when you try to do something and then you're exhausted. Okay. So if you're trying to do something, you're like, I shouldn't be this exhausted. You know, mentally, it's exhausting. If you feel your brain is mentally exhausted, that's another good indicator that you've probably reached a really high level of resistance, unconscious to conscious level. Okay. So you have to look at what your conscious really needs. Okay. So there'll be many hints in your life of what it actually needs, which I think is really important. And you have to really look at them, and throughout the day, connect with them. I'm going to give you some solutions today, okay? But just remember something. The whole purpose of all that stuff sitting in that dark area that we refer to, its purpose is to keep us safe. Think of it as its own personality, okay? It's its own little personality. You know, just to be fair, you know, it has, like, my life story is very, very hard. And so when I talk about it often, when I put everything into that dark area, what ends up happening is that it was hurting me from moving forward because I don't like sharing a lot of personal stuff. It's just not what I like to do. But then, so what I did is every time it came to the point where it was like, okay, well, you have to share your story, I was just like, no. And it was hurting me from connecting with certain people because I couldn't share it. So what happened was that I'd want to jump ahead. It was back there. So I was self-sabotaging myself, but I didn't even know it existed. So then what I did is I started recognizing that there's a place for it, there's a space for it, there's something really good there for it. And I'll explain that in a second, because that's what you really have to start looking at. There isn't a formal diagnosis for self-sabotaging because it's not like a disease or anything, so you don't have to worry about that. However, speaking, if you feel it's hurting you in a big capacity, my best advice is going to be go see a mental health professional to uncover some of it, of those triggers that you're looking at. A lot of people, you know, I'm very honest about it. I love Mental health, I mean, I think seeking out professionals, the right professionals are great. One of the things I did when I was overeating, again, that was all the stuff that was back there. It was a self-sabotaging behavior. So one of the things when I kept overeating consistently, and I'm going, wait a second, I'm running marathons, I'm doing what I got to do. What the F am I doing? I want to be health and wellness and all of the above, but yet here I am, I'm self-sabotaging it by eating like a carburetor. I couldn't stop. I was like, oh, this is great, Anyway, so my animation is quite good. So anyway, the point being, is that I had to work with a health professional. I worked with a food psychologist for a year, just diving into it every single freaking time, trying to figure out what was going on. And then we identified what my trigger was. So if you don't have a coach to work on the triggers for your self-sabotaging behavior, really start identifying that. Let me tell you something, it is worth it. It was the best decision I ever did, because when we recognized what the triggers were, everything else became easy. I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. I was like, this is absolutely fantastic. So you can get the help from those around you as well. I mean, they're going to know, they're going to be very clear with you if you ask them for help. Otherwise, there's people around you who will probably let you stay in your self-sabotaging behavior. That example I used about the female I coached for a few months there, it was perfect. A great example. She went to her circle that is very well aware of the trauma that she had with her father figure. And when she brought it up and said, this is reminding me of this, everybody around her tried to protect her and say, yeah. You know what? Back out, because this is going to trigger you. That's not necessarily true. Okay, what you have to remember about that is that it's not, again, you don't want to have those people in your circle doing that with you, okay? So you can list the house with those around you. A few giveaways that you are self-sabotaging yourself is this. So ask yourself if this is you. You often ask yourself why things aren't going as you planned. Okay. You second guess yourself or you doubt yourself. You don't even try to reach your goal. So, you have goals, but you don't actually really try to reach it. So every week you may say you're trying, but you're really not. You make excuses for it. Basically, you find yourself doing things that result in the exact opposite of what you want. Okay. So if you want to build a great big business, but yet you're staying small, or if you want to lose a lot of weight and get in shape, but you're staying small, or you want to have better relationships with people, but you still are arguing with everybody, it's that direct one. So that's the opposite. And you believe you don't deserve more and behave in a way that supports that belief. That's one of the biggest ones, is you don't actually believe you deserve more. And so your behavior supports that belief significantly. So if you're trying to break a major pattern of self-sabotaging, it's often too much to try to identify the triggers. It took me 6 months of every day, by the way, like every day, 6 months, every day, I was tracking it, trying to figure out with a professional psychologist, really a food psychologist, trying to figure out what the F. He said it was his hardest case. Yay, I never win anything. But anyway, so that was his hardest case. So anyway, so at the end of the day, what ended up happening is that it's too much to try to figure out sometimes what the trigger is. So, what simultaneously that is, as you're trying to modify your behavior in that one. So instead, when you find yourself self-sabotaging yourself, try to acknowledge and accept the behavior instead of trying to change it. Do you have low self-esteem? Is it bad habits such as excessive or uncontrollable drinking or eating, or even drugs? Is it cognitive dissonance? That's inconsistent or conflicting thoughts. Is it fear or discomfort or of change? Is it a need to be in control? Are you lack of contentment with where you are in your life, or are you actually content where you are in your life? Do you have a major fear of failure? Are you familiarity of failure? So familiarity of failure is a big one, huge one. I don't know about you guys, but let me tell you something. I don't know many people that, showed up to their house and had the police standing there after burying your mother saying, guess what? You don't live here anymore. You have 15 minutes to get out. That's a pretty big fear, in my opinion. So that's familiarity with a lot of things. Social or peer pressure as well. Most of us are in industries where we have a lot of social or peer pressure to be the best. Now it's like, how many Google reviews do you have? Did you do this? Oh, you're terrible at that. So, there's a lot of things that external and internal motivators that can put those hurdles up for you. And often what those are, though, guys, that's what we refer to as avoidance. Okay. When you allow that shit to creep in, and you say to yourself, well, I don't deserve it, or I'm this type of person, that's just avoidance, okay? So for example, self-sabotage, that's like fear of failure, for example, or change. What happens is it's avoid to avoid the change. So you put off looking for, let's say, a new apartment, even though you have to move. Okay, that is a really good self-sabotaging behavior. Or if you're content where your career is, You may want to, you may be like, I'm okay with where things are, but every time a job opportunity or something comes in your way, you're sabotaging the shit out of it. Because deep down inside, you're okay with where you are, but then you're sabotaging all the opportunities to move ahead. That's another form of self-sabotage. So when you're gaining awareness of your triggers, it's important to avoid the self-sabotaging behaviors. So I'm going to give you a couple tips here that I wrote down for you. And again, enlist the help of people, because a lot of the times these are not even relevant. Like, you can't even see them. If somebody would have told me the reason why I was eating so much was the trigger that I had, I would have told them they were nuts. I would have said, you are absolutely out of your rockers. There's no way. I mean, I've been programmed with that. But then diving deep, I was like, holy shit, it was incredible. Anyway, so once you identified where you might lean into self-sabotage, wherever it is, for example, you can work on your thoughts and your actions this way, and it'll steer you away from it. So a few ways to get ahead of it is this. And this is going to sound very elementary, but let me tell you something. It's incredible. Make a list, whether it's verbal or written, okay, on the thoughts and actions that you actually believe are self-sabotaging you. It lays out a plan of view so that you can become more aware of it as you move forward. There's a great doctor that actually suggests that, and it's incredible, the studies that show when you write it, okay, so when you write it down and you put down everything, whether it's verbal, written, or both, or whatever, and it's the thoughts and actions that you know are self-sabotaging you, and you put it right in front of your freaking face so it's there every single day, watch what happens. It is really freaking mind-blowing. So going back to my food analogy, my self-sabotager there, what he did, my self-sabotage therapist, as I call him, anyway, he was great. And he literally said, put it on your fridge. He goes, I want you to put this trigger on the fridge right now. This is when you go in there. And I was like, holy smokes. And eventually it worked. It was amazing. Create a plan. The second thing is create a plan with detailed steps towards reaching your goal. So if you have a goal, a business goal, a personal goal, a sales goal, whatever goal that is, a health and wellness goal, you need to have a detailed plan. If you're a self-sabotager and it is not detailed, it is almost impossible. In my own opinion, I've tried 1,000 different things. It's going to be very hard for you to break through that. Okay, so having a very detailed steps towards reaching that goal, whether you chunk it down weekly, monthly, whatever. But the whole idea and concept is it will help you focus on the steps that will get you there. Okay, and then equally, every step that you make to get you there, you need to celebrate. Okay, I don't care if it's literally, if exercise is something you're trying to do and you literally got through till 12 o'clock, you did your exercise and you didn't cheat food wise, and that was one of the steps for the day so far, celebrate it. Now, don't celebrate by going and having a beer or something. I mean, that doesn't make any sense, right? But at the end of the day, celebrate it. Positive self-talk, whatever the case is. If you have a partner in your life or friends in your life that can celebrate with you, that's freaking awesome, okay? That will make a huge milestone. And another thing is tell your group of people all around you what your triggers are. You need to be very, very clear of what that is, and they'll have to stick with it and help you stay accountable. A lot of times we don't share this stuff because, again, self-sabotaging is something very serious, in my opinion, as a cognitive behavior. But what you're also looking at equally is that if you don't tell your support group about what triggers you, hey, by the way, I'm trying to do this, but it seems that every time I do this, I allow myself to do that. This is my trigger. That person that I was referring to, again, I really like her. She's amazing. But at the end of the day, her group doesn't have a clue that she's self-sabotaging herself. So every time that this is going to happen in her life, which has happened for years, she is going to self-sabotage herself. It's going to happen. If you literally are like, what happened to me? I wanted to build this great business and this is where I want to get to. Stop self-sabotaging yourself. Why aren't you there? What keeps happening? Journal it out. Look at it. Express it. Acknowledge that there is something in your behavior that's stopping you every single time. But remember, it's that area in your brain, okay, that dark area in your brain that you may not even know that you've repressed a ton of your personality in. And, you know, a lot of people talk about, you know, those of you who have known me for a long time, you know that I'm wild and crazy. I mean, that is just who I am. I'm a wild, crazy kind of person. But I also have repressed for years. I repressed that kind of person for a really long time because, well, it's different than a lot of the people out there. You know, I mean, I love to have fun. I have more energy than anybody that I've ever met. I love all that kind of stuff. But what happened is it was repressing me. I stayed in a corporate position for years, even though I knew that wasn't the right fit. So what ended up happening was pulling all that stuff out, but then also recognizing, if you notice, yes, I'm in triathlons and I do all that stuff because now I can take that amazing amount of energy, and instead of hiding it here and going, okay, you know what? It's not good. You got to behave. I got to do things the right way. I got to do what everybody else is doing. The number one thing that I would do is now I take it and I give everything I've got to the triathlon world. And now it feeds that, you know, there's no roadblocks to my health and wellness. My energy level, I have a great outlet for it. I've learned to utilize that, but I've also learned to inspire other people who may be sitting there going, yeah, you know, I've got that energy. I've got that passion to do something crazy and different. Great. Well, get it out there. What keeps stopping you? Okay, so when you're self-sabotaging, guys, like I was saying, biggest piece of advice, write it down. Self-sabotaging, like I said, if at all you felt what we talked about today, which is just basically you're at a roadblock and you keep wanting to be somewhere and you're not in that place. Identify what's holding you back from it. There's nothing wrong with you. It's an area that you've never known. It's a self-protection method where you take the shit that's happened to you in your life, and it can be as easy as this one client hated how her father talked to her whole life, hated it. And then, of course, she met me, said that she wanted somebody to talk to her like that, wanted her to get to the next level, but then self-sabotage herself consistently because then she was like, no, I don't want to do it. I do, because it kept fighting her. So you got to bring it out, and you're not trying to get rid of it. Keep that in mind, guys. You're not trying to get rid of it. It's part of your personality. Everything that's happened to you is part of who you are. So it depends on how you acknowledge it, how you recognize it, you know, how you bring it into who you are and learn to work with it. Too many people try to rectify and get rid of whatever it is, and you shouldn't have to do that. You want to really take it out, acknowledge what it is, learn what it is. You know, a lot of people are going to message me, what was the thing that I went to the fridge for each time? Well, it was deadlines. Okay, I'm a completely deadline-driven individual, but deadlines kept stressing me out to the point where I just go grab. It was a habit. It was like boom, 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 self-sabotaging. It was all of that, you know, because what deadlines did is it brought back a lot of the feelings and memories and things like that, where when I was growing up, you know, when you have everything that's happened to me in my life, is that a lot of the deadlines that represented in my life represented deadlines that weren't good. Funerals, death, surgeries, brain surgeries on my mom, burials, you know, time frames of that. I mean, those deadlines will freak anybody out. So it was the craziest thing to associate all that I was putting in here, the whole, you know, holy crap, you know, you have 15 minutes to get out of the house. You have this. Can you imagine that? I'll never forget it. You know, I'll never forget being told I had 15 minutes to get out of a house. So that was repressed in there somewhere. So every single time that I had a deadline, which was every single day, you know, in the corporate world, it was pressure for deadlines, which is fine. But it wasn't fine because I was going and I was using food to kind of cope with what was happening, the pushback. So my self-sabotaging behavior was very hard for us to find the trigger. But when we found the trigger, you know, it was really good. You know, everything came off of the plate. So it's not, you know, if it's as deep as mine was, you know, go see a professional. If yours is, you know, business related or friendship related, or if it's health and wellness related and you feel like you kind of know what the triggers are, write them down, have all that, put your goals in writing, create a list on what you think those triggers are so you never forget them and you can bring them up to the forefront, and then you can actually incorporate them to your today. Okay. Hopefully you love this, guys. Give it a shot. And if you need any extra combos, let me know. Bye, guys.